Iron Man 3 is kinda awesome. The Iron Man trilogy has always been more on the meh side of the MCU, to be honest. Iron Man 1 is great, 2 and 3 are considered disappointing follow-ups. And I can see why people might think that Iron Man 1 is the grandfather of the MCU and it is an incredible origin for Tony, but I wouldn't consider Iron Man 3 as a bad film. It's got its issues, absolutely. The Mandarin twist kinda sucks, but in terms of Tony himself and what the movie does to further humanize him and his development as a character is actually pretty damn good. And this might be a bit of a stretch, but I'd say it's even better than Iron Man 1. Wait, just hold on, let me finish. I think one of the best things about the film is how much more human Tony seems here, and this can really be split into two different branches. One, his PTSD, and two, how he works outside of the suit, putting more emphasis on the man part of his name rather than the iron. And this was really cool to see, watching Tony go around Home Depot gathering tools so he can craft weaponry for the Mandarin's lair, setting up a satellite on some guy's van, using a regular phone box is all really awesome. Side note, it is really cool when superheroes wear regular clothing for some reason. It reins you into remembering, hold on, Tony really was a genius before being Iron Man. And this idea of seeing Tony outside of the suit expands even further beyond just seeing him tinker. It delves into his mental state with his PTSD, and I think it's a really cool thing throughout the movie. Having nightmares in his sleep, having panic attacks. I mean, we're talking about a billionaire playboy philanthropist with enough money to buy the world over 10 times, with the biggest, fanciest cars, latest watches, having a panic attack in regular civilian clothing in the middle of a road out in Tennessee and using a phone box.
What's questionable about electricity? All right, it's my suit, and then I don't want to. Oh God, I can't.
Tony? Are you having another attack?
I didn't even mention New York.
Right, and then you just said it by name while denying having said it.
Okay,
It portrays him in this sort of vulnerable state. Not to say Tony hasn't been in vulnerable positions before, but it feels like it stands out more here because this seems like a sort of attack anyone could have, creating that sort of human connection with the audience, and this really strengthens the man part of Iron Man. And speaking of this, I really feel that this film closes the gap a ton between those two words, Iron and Man. Here you really do see that Tony Stark is Iron Man is Tony Stark, the suit, and he are one. You can't really separate one from the other without it no longer being Iron Man. You can take away everything from him, but you can't take away the fact that he is Iron Man even without the suit. And even given all this, even after all this character work, I still feel like it manages to feel like an Iron Man movie. It's got a really strong balance between showing the character moments but also giving you some really incredible action scenes. Tony's out here saving people who fell out of a plane through Chunky Monkey, giving out calls remotely, jumping from suit to suit, looking at all the different kinds of suits Tony's been working on, even having nicknames for them, upgrading his tech to the point where he can call it out to him in parts, watching him use a car barrier to charge his dead armor. A huge amount of the movie really to me just seems like a what if Tony Stark was dropped in a random location and had to work with what he has, which is a really cool premise. In the previous films he has his resources, his money, his labs, but this puts him into an element somewhat new to him, save for the cave of course. And it's really cool to see, setting up shop in some random person's garage, starting a fire with parts around the kitchen, a makeshift repulsor that fizzles out after one use. You get what I'm saying here. And I think why Iron Man 3 really stands out to me in this regard is because to me it's kind of the last time an Iron Man movie feels grounded and real, or at the very least his appearance does, in the sense that outside of maybe Age of Ultron, Tony's future appearances in the MCU lose that Iron feel in favor of a more comic booky look and feel. The suits don't feel as real anymore, they feel like plastic, like toys really, rather than real metal, which was a factor that was always present in the early MCU days. But post Ultron, the suits have all felt kind of plastic and fake, with the guiltiest contender being Infinity War. They no longer really look all that real to me. And this isn't a bad thing in terms of story or Tony's character. I think Tony's character throughout the MCU is its golden goose. He's the golden boy and his story was pretty damn incredible from start to finish. But his suits did start to feel less as if they could actually work in our world and adapted that comic book feel more and more each movie. And I get that this kind of had to happen because of nanotech and time travel, but still, Iron Man 3 to me has always been the kind of last appearance of the Iron Man armor outside of Age of Ultron, where the suit really does look like Iron Man. I can tell why the character is named Iron Man. Next, moving on to what I think is personally the best part of the movie, Harley. I think Harley stands out in the movie because it creates this kind of dynamic we don't see in the MCU, at least not until Peter comes along. But this dynamic is really cool to see play out on screen between Harley and Tony. I would say they're more like that of the drunk uncle and the nephew. Tony teases Harley, leaves him stranded in the cold, is dismissive of his dad leaving him, but he still does care for Harley, acknowledging that he does get bullied, isn't exactly from the most well-off family in the world, trusts him enough to the point where he leaves his armor laying around him, not to mention he leaves a crap ton of technology for him later on. Harley adds a level of charm to the movie that distinguishes it from the others in the trilogy, and I didn't even realize this until later on, but Harley actually appears in Endgame at the end. That's pretty cool. Hey look, he's right there. And I know I already talked about the action in the movie, but it really is just incredible. The plane scene is an extremely creative rescue the civilian scene, and it shows how quick Tony is on his feet. And I think one of the best fight scenes in this movie is the scene where he's just fighting out of the Mandarin complex with just half his suit and a gun. To me, that's really cool because it just seems like it subtly really drives home the idea that Tony Stark and Iron Man are inseparable. He's literally half Tony Stark and half Iron Man here. And even without the character beats, the action in and of itself is just really cool to watch and insanely creative. Especially if we take a look at that final sequence with the house party protocol, just looking at all the different kind of Iron Man suits in action is a great way to show just how much of an impact New York had on Tony. Not to mention it's just really cool to watch, and on top of that, it really does scratch that ooga booga nerd brain people have. Also, the movie, despite having its serious moments, is actually kind of funny too, to be honest. And I don't think this is really specific to the movie itself, but more so as a thing in regards to old MCU as a whole. The humor fits, it doesn't slow down the whole scene to make a funny joke where it's kind of like a laugh now moment. And if it is like that, it really does flow really well with the characters and the type of personalities that they do have. Even small scenes like this.
5 of them. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spot. Ready? What'd you say? Too fast. Nothing. I'll let you live. In 5, 4, bang! Wow, that was... You should be gone by now. You should already been gone.
Here, let me show you. Hold on. See?
Look at what? You watching them? Flip the screen, and then we can get started.
Are genuinely funny and kill me because of the natural charm that they have, and Iron Man 3 blends it all together really well. Whereas later in the MCU, it really seems like they're entirely comedic films where the movie stops for a joke and then just carries on.
You need to find the damn remote.
But that's a topic for another video, hopefully. But the point is that Iron Man 3 and honestly early MCU, and by that I mean phase 1 to 3, it was something else truly, it really was. It had that perfect blend of comedy and seriousness. But yeah, Iron Man 3 is actually pretty funny. And it does fall short in some aspects, it really does. The Mandarin twist, again, is just kind of Bruh. It also does suck that we will probably never see a fight between Wenwu and Tony, but a man can dream, eh? Killian being pissed at Tony is also kind of boring and it is kind of a whack origin. Anytime Maya is on screen just makes me want to roll my eyes because it is kind of boring whenever she's there. I just don't care much about her character, honestly. And comparing it to Iron Man 1, it is a less tightly knit story, so I can get why it gets some criticism for that. But I honestly can't help but feel that it deserves way more credit than it does get. It puts Tony in some really interesting scenarios and it does a huge ton for his development in the MCU and as a character. Is it the best Iron Man movie? Kind of depends on what day you ask me, to be honest. Some days it's the first Iron Man, other days it's Iron Man 3, sorry too. Is it the top 5 in the MCU and the cream of the crop? No. But does it belong in the bottom ranks of the MCU either? No, absolutely not. But yeah, Iron Man 3 is actually pretty fun, it's cool, and if you don't like it, rewatch it and you'll see, hey, that guy in that one video I was watching was actually telling the truth. This is actually pretty fun and cool. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see you later.